Hey everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to make a necklace and a pair of earrings today, and I'm going to use some of the beads that came in the most recent Potomac Beads Treasure Edition subscription box, the one for October 2024. It's called Enchanted Forest, and I'm also using just a few beads from previous Treasure Edition boxes that I pulled out to go with these beads from the latest box. I'll put a link in the description box below to the page on the Potomac Beads website where you can go and read about both of their subscription boxes that they offer and sign up for it if it's something that you're interested in. And here I have the 4mm check glass faceted beads that came in the box. And here I have the check glass prop beads that came in the box. This is what I'm using for my focal, and these are some beads from previous boxes. This large bead is a check glass flat organic disc bead. It's 25mm and the color is marbled gray. I think it came in the January box. There were two of them and I used one of them. And then I have this bead. I don't know which box I know it was a Potomac box, but I don't know which one it came in. But it says check glass pressed beads, purple/blue iris. I didn't have the size, but that says check glass pressed beads. I have a couple of bead caps from my stash. I've got a bale bead. I've got a head pin and a piece of 22 gauge German style wire. I've got some bindings in here. I've got a couple of pieces of chain, a different chain with larger links in it that I'm going to use, a shorter piece that I'm going to use as an extender chain. I've got two crimp tubes, two 2x2 crimp tubes, two wire guardians, and two crimp covers, and a lobster clasp, and a ball head pin that I'm going to put this leaf bead that came in the box. Check glass leaf beads is what they're called, Jet AB. I'm going to hang that off the ball head pin as a dangle off of my extender chain. I think that's everything in there. This is what I'm using for my earrings. I've got two of those check glass pressed beads like this one, and two of the leaf beads, four of the 4mm faceted check glass faceted beads, four bead caps, two ball head pins, two pieces of 22 gauge German style wire, and a couple of fish hook ear wires. I think that's everything in there. Oh, and a couple of 4mm jump rings. I think that's everything in there. I'm going to be using some silver 11-0 seed beads to space out the beads. Got my bead stopper. I'm going to be using my soft flex beading wire in fine. This is 21 strand and the color is satin silver. I'm going to be using just all the regular jewelry tools that I always use. And I have my little Norlings shot glass to put my wires in when I cut them off. I think that's everything. I'll put links to everything I can find links for in the description box below. Everything that didn't come in this subscription. So hold on, I'll get some of this out of the way. And when I come back, I'll build my focal. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to work on my focal here. And I realized when I went over my materials list that I forgot in my little findings tray there. I have some jump rings too. I have 3 4mm jump rings and 1 8mm jump ring. So I'm going to take my head pin and put my disc bead on here. And I'm going to take my pliers. And I'm going to do a simple loop here. So I'm going to go just a little bit above the bead. And I'm going to bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle. And I'm going to take my cutters that I use for craft wire and head pins and eye pins. And I'm going to cut this off and leave about 1/4 of an inch of the pin. I'm going to take my round nose pliers and go to the very end here and make sure there's nothing sticking out here. And I always go pretty far down on the barrel to start my loop. Then I go up to the tip to finish my loop. It's not hardly as centered as I would like it to be, so I'm going to go in here and cock the neck back just a little bit. And open my loop and close it again to get it good and closed. That's going to spin around, but I can't get it any tighter than that. So now I'm going to take my piece of 22 gauge German style wire. This is about a 3.5, maybe 4 inch piece of wire. I'm going to go down about 1 inch, bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle, take my round nose pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Round nose pliers facing me. Bend the wire back until it hits the tool. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Take this part under here until it hits the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the wire. Like that. And that usually stands this little piece of wire almost straight up. Now I'm going to take my pliers and open my loop. And thread on my bell bead. To open it more than that. I'm going to close my loop. Now I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and hold on to my loop. Take this wire down a little bit and then wrap it around the longer piece of wire about 3 times. I'm going to take my cutters, cut off my extra wire. Now I'm going to take my bead cap, one of my bead caps, and my check glass pressed bead, and another bead cap. And then I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to go to the very tip of the pliers because I don't want a very long neck. Bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle. Around those pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Around those pliers facing me. I bend the wire back until it hits the bead. I rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Take this part under here until it hits the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the beads, or the bead. I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and hold on to my loop. Bring this wire down. I'm going to take my other pair of bent chain nose pliers and start to wrap. Make sure to get that first wrapping under the bottom of the loop and not over the top of the bottom of the loop, and just wrap till there's no more room to wrap. I'm going to take my cutters and cut off my extra wire. And now I'm going to take these crimping pliers, and I use the little 2 half circles at the end there to tuck in the burrs when I cut off wire. I'm going to tuck in my burrs. And then now I'm going to take my disc bead and open this loop at the top. And thread it on this little piece of component that I've already made here and close my loop back. So that's going to be my focal. So now I'm going to string up my necklace. I'm going to go ahead and string it up off camera so y'all don't have to wait while I string up all these tiny little beads. And then when I come back, I'll show you what my pattern is. So I'll be back. Okay, I've got my necklace strung up here now. And this is just a really simple pattern. I've just got, I've got 11 seed beads between all the beads. And I've started with a 4mm bead. And I've just alternated between a 4mm bead and one of the prop beads. And a 4mm bead and a prop bead. And I did that all the way down this side. I have 9 of the prop beads on this one side, starting with a 4mm bead and ending with a prop bead. And then I've got my focal, my bail threaded on here, and I have a couple of little 11 seed beads in under the bail so that it doesn't rub directly against the bead stringing wire. And then I have the same thing on this other side. So now I'm going to crimp. I forgot to get my crimp tubes out, my wire guardians. Can't crimp without that. Okay. Now I'm going to thread on my crimp tube and my wire guardian. I'm going to go down the other channel of my wire guardian. Back into my crimp tube. And I'm going to hold my wires apart so that they don't get crossed in there. Because when I crimp, I want each wire to land in its own little individual channel, and they won't do that if they're crossed. Now I'm going to take these crimping pliers and I'm going to use that tooth, and I'm going to lay the tooth on top of my crimp tube and squeeze, and that puts each wire in its own little channel. Now I like to fold the crimp with these other pair of crimping pliers with the 2 half circles at the end there. So I'm going to lay the crimp tube in there and squeeze. Give it a good tight squeeze. Now I'm going to tug. That's good. So now I'm going to use my cutters that I use for bead stringing wire. I use a different pair of cutters for bead stringing wire than I do for head pins and eye pins and craft wire. I'm going to cut off my extra wire. And now I'm going to push all this down, crimp this other side. Okay, now I'm going to crimp this other side. I don't know what happened. For some reason, my phone stopped recording there for a minute. So I cut this. I had it attached to my spool, and I cut it off my spool before I realized my phone had stopped recording. So now I'm going to take my other crimp tube and put it on here. And my other wire guardian. I'm going to go down the other channel of my wire guardian. back through my crimp tube. Try to keep my wires from getting crossed. It's a little bit harder on this side. I'm going to go through this bead here. I'll try to go through a bead on this side if I can to get my hands out of the way when I'm trying to crimp and to center my wire guardian over this last bead. So now I'm going to pull my wire through. And you don't want to have any slack in your piece, but you don't want it to be too tight either. And I usually just leave it coiled up like this, and that keeps it from being too tight. So now I'm going to take my crimping pliers again and use the part with the tooth and lay the tooth on top of my crimp tube and squeeze. I'll take my other crimping pliers and fold my crimp. Give it a good tight squeeze. I'm going to tug. That's good. So now I'm going to take my cutters and cut off my extra wire. So that's what I've got now. So now I'm going to get my crimp covers and try to put those on. Those are the hardest part for me, but I'm going to try, so I'll be back. Okay, I've already put one of my crimp covers on, and I'm going to do the other one now. So I'm going to take my crimp cover and lay it over top of my crimp tube. There we go. Now, I'm going to take my crimp closing pliers, crimp cover closing pliers, and I'm going to start closing my crimp cover. I want to get it closed enough that I don't have to hold it, that it'll stay on there without me holding it. Now I'm going to go down in there to the little half circles there and put it in there and start closing it with those. Before I get it all the way closed, I'm going to go front to back and squish it a little bit. It kind of helps keep it round. And now I'm going to go back and try to finish closing it. I think I'll go front to back again. So I think that's about as well as I'm going to do. So that's what I've got now. So now I'm going to put my findings on. Got a couple of pieces of chain here. And I'm going to take my pliers, take a 4mm jump ring, and open it up and thread on my chain. Thread it onto one side of my necklace. Close my jump ring back. Make sure to get it closed back really well. Now take another 4mm jump ring. And open it up. Do my other side. Close my jump ring back really well. Okay, now I'm going to take another 4mm jump ring. Open it up. Put on my lobster clasp. And put it on this end of my, or this side of my bracelet. Close my jump ring back really well. And on this side, I'm going to put a 8mm jump ring for my lobster to clasp onto. Put it on this end of my chain. And then I have a little piece of extender chain here. It's about, probably about 2 inches. Put that on there. Close my jump ring back really well. So that's what I've got now. So now I'm going to make a little dangle with my little leaf bead here. So I've got a ball head pin. I'm going to put my leaf on here. I'm going to take my pliers, go to the very tip of the pliers, bend the pin over at a 90-degree angle around those pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Round those pliers facing me. Bend the wire back until it hits the bead. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Take this part under until it hits the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the bead. I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and hold on to my loop. Bring this wire down. My other pair of bent chain nose pliers and start to wrap. Wrap till there's no more room to wrap. I'm going to take my cutters. Wrong cutters. Cut off my extra wire here, the rest of my pin. And I'm going to take my crimping pliers and tuck in my little burr. And now I'm going to take this link at the end of my extender chain and open it up. Thread on my leaf bead. And close it back. Make sure you get it closed back really well. So there's my little dangle. And there's my necklace. So now I'm going to get my stuff and make a little pair of earrings. So I'll be back. Okay, now I'm going to make a little earring. So I've got a ball head pin. I'm going to put my leaf bead on here. And take my pliers. Go to the very tip of the pliers. Bend the pin over at a 90-degree angle. Around those pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Around those pliers facing me. Bend the wire back till it hits the bead. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. This part under until it hits the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the bead. I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and hold onto my loop. Bring this part down. Take my other pair of bent chain nose pliers and start to wrap. Just wrap till there's no more room to wrap. I'm going to take my cutters, cut off my extra wire. Now I'm going to tuck in my burrs. I've got a piece of 22 gauge German style wire. I'm going to go down about an inch. Bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle. Around those pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Bend the wire back until it hits the tool. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Take this part under here until it's the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the wire. Take my bent chain nose pliers and hold onto my loop. Bring this part down. Wrap the short piece of wire around the long piece of wire. About 3 times. My cutters and cut off my extra wire. Didn't get hardly enough of that cut off that time. Okay, now I'm going to take my 4mm faceted bead and a bead cap and my pressed bead, another bead cap, and another 4mm faceted bead. Now I'm going to take my pliers, go to the tip of the pliers, bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle, around those pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Bend the wire back until it hits the beads. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Take this part under until it hits the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the beads. I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and hold onto my loop. Bring this part down. Take my other pair of bent chain nose pliers and start to wrap. Wrap until there's no more room to wrap. I'm going to take my cutters and cut off my extra wire. I'm going to take my crimping pliers, tuck in my little burrs. And you need to be real careful when there's a crystal at the end like this, because it's really easy to crack your crystal when you're doing this. So it's not a crystal, it's a fire polish bead, or a faceted crochet glass bead. I'm not sure if it's fire polished or not, but it's still easy to crack if you're not careful. This is not hardly as straight as I would like it to be, so I'm going to straighten it up there. Now I'm going to take a 4mm jump ring and try to locate the slit here. Open it up. Thread on my little link I've made here and thread on my little leaf bead. Close my jump ring back really well. Now I'm just going to take my ear wire and open it up. Thread on my earring. And these leaf beads have an AB coating on one side and not on the other side. And I'm going to put the part with the AB coating on the front of my earring because y'all know I'm all into everything sparkly and shiny and AB. I'm going to thread on my earring. And I didn't put it on the right way because my AB is not facing the side of the front. Okay, yeah. Now I'm going to close my ear wire back. So that's my little earring. So now I'm going to make the other one off camera, and then when I get back I'll have it all laid out and we'll see what I've got. So I'll be back. Okay, there's my necklace and pair of earrings made with some of the beads from the most recent Potomac Beads Treasure Edition subscription box, and then a few beads from past treasure boxes. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description box below to the page on the Potomac Beads website where you can go and read about both of their subscriptions, and that's where you would subscribe if you're interested in doing that. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my channel and watched my videos and liked and commented on my videos. I have a website where I sell my jewelry. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook, Instagram, and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope y'all have a great day. Take care.